Hi, everybody. How are you? Good to see some new faces and familiar faces. Again, my name is Brandon, and maybe I'll wait till people start coming in. But before we start, I did want to ask you a quick question. How many people have dabbled in the new marketing tools a little bit? Okay. How many people are actually regularly sending emails out of the new marketing tools? Okay, so that's maybe 5%. So for most people, I originally was going to do this as a little bit more of like an advanced, let's get into these. And I'm realizing that actually people are still new to them. So instead, I'm going to do a little bit more of an introduction and hopefully take some of the scariness out of a new tool and a new approach out of things. So my name is Brandon Fuller, and I work at Raise the Roots. And my email is Brandon at We Raise the Roots. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer your questions. And there's our website there. And just like Jennifer Lopez, I'm a triple threat. I was an Engaging Networks client. I used to work at the Pew Charitable Trust and ran online advocacy there, and we used Engaging Networks. And I used to work at Engaging Networks. Ben has taken that job in a whole much bigger direction, but I was the director of account services. And now I own an agency that serves almost entirely Engaging Networks clients. We've worked with 50 Engaging Networks clients, and love the platform and love this community. I'm also a singer, a dancer, and a business mogul. So I'm going to talk about the marketing tools. If you haven't made the move yet and you're really intimidated, but you're thinking about doing it, we created a site. It's weraisetheroots.com/marketing, where you can go. We have a special package to help people get on board. We've helped about 10 organizations make this move. And again, even if you're just thinking about it and have questions or run into obstacles, I'm always happy to answer any questions about it. So we already did the show of hands, but I'm going to quickly go over the marketing tools hierarchy because it is a little bit different than the regular email tools or email classic tools as they're called. I'm also going to do a speed demo. I actually don't have a lot of time. Maybe Sarah will remind me how much time I have, or maybe she'll throw up a hand. I'll do my best to stick to the time. I'm going to explain how, if you want to get started playing with these, how you can do so quickly. Engaging Networks does provide templates and blocks and things that you can start with. And then once you've created those, how you can kind of configure these things called replacements to customize them for your organization's brand, for your colors and things like that. So the marketing tools hierarchy. So in the marketing tools world, you're going to see three things that are really important to setting up emails and sending them out. The top level is the broadcast. That's the email you're going to send. They call them broadcasts now because sometimes you might send an email or a text message. And the broadcast is built using a template. So you'll create a template just like in the current tools, where you'll basically have sort of a newsletter version or appeal version or an action alert version. That is the version that you're going to send most of the time, that you're going to make a broadcast off of and then customize it for the send. And those templates are made up of blocks. So traditionally, you'd send your email and you might have a header block and a button and some text and everything. So now you're going to think of that as in a more modular approach. Instead of just one email that has an image and has some text and has a button, you're actually going to have sort of a modular image block, text block, button block. So think instead about how your email is broken up into pieces and segments. Hi, Clint. This is just an example of what those blocks look like. So you can see this blue outline section is a text block. And at the top and bottom, there's plus signs because you can add a block to above it or below it. On the right, you've got a little arrow square. That's to move it around on the email. And then you've got a little trash can. You can get rid of it. On the left is something we'll go over, but the conditional content. So if you wanted to have a different version of this displayed for donors versus non-donors versus monthly donors versus lapsed donors, you could have all different versions of this text. And when you click on the block on the right, you'll actually see what they're called replacements, which is your ability to customize this block however you want for your particular email. And so you might have options there like how much of a margin you want, how wide should the button be, what color should the background of the button be, what's the link for this image, those kind of things. And so it really assists you in building this email and customizing the blocks. Then you take all those blocks and you build a template. So here we have an email template that is made up of a series of blocks. And what's distinct about an email template versus a broadcast is you're going to take this template, build a broadcast, but here you can see there's a tab for HTML. And so as you're building your template, you can go into the HTML and edit it. So you can't do that in the broadcast. So this is the step where if you wanted to manipulate CSS or anything like that, you would do that in the template phase. And then, like I said, you'll take that template, you'll create a broadcast based on that template. And you can see this is a broadcast because on the right, this is where I can choose conditional content options. What profiles am I targeting? I can set up my subject line, preview text, the name of this email, the sender, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to do a quick demo of the marketing tools, and we're going to look at those blocks, the templates, these broadcasts, how you can do conditional content, and then A/B testing. So here. Okay, so you have these two tabs now. You have the marketing tools tab and the email tab. It's email classic is email. Marketing tools is here. And on the right, you can see that there's a components area. So there's templates, blocks, images, and files. So we're going to start in the blocks section. And this is made up of sample blocks. So those are blocks that Engaging Networks has built and provided for you. And then custom blocks. So these are blocks that you've created. Maybe you've cloned those sample blocks and customized them, or maybe you've completely built these from scratch. If you're building a block from an existing email template, again, all you're going to be thinking about is, okay, so I know there's an image block or an image space for a hero image in my email template. I'm going to go in the code and look, where's the start of that image and where's the end of it? I'm going to pull that content out, that code out. I'm going to put it into one of these custom blocks. So let's just go into one of these and click edit. And this is a fairly basic one. This is just a body text. So you can see we've got the name of it. You do have to have a thumbnail image. We create these little thumbnail images to make them easier to find, and they're pretty. And then underneath that, you have the actual code itself. So most of these blocks will be tables. I would suggest that every block you create be a table. And you can see just some basic code here. Maybe this is intimidating to some people, but don't let it be intimidating. This is just basically a text block. And you can see there's these little gray ovals. And these are called replacements. These are sections of your code that when you're setting up your email, you may want to customize for that particular message. So here you can see this one's called adjust the top margin. And so you can set, if you want to give people the options of, should there be a space above this text block? What should that be? You can see here, you can create options like 10 pixels of space, 20 pixels of space, 30 pixels of space. And you can kind of customize these based on how you set up emails, what's easiest for you. The text alignment, this is a body text section. This is a rich text editor, like a WYSIWYG. And so you can say, in this space is where the words will go. So we're going to insert a replacement here, and it's going to be a WYSIWYG. And here's some sample text for our team so that they know what they should be putting here. And you just add this replacement into the code where the text would normally be. And when you're setting up your email, you'll see on the right-hand side that this is that replacement section. And we'll look at that in a second. But like I said, they've got these sample blocks, and here you've got a text block. You can use these, you can make a copy of it and customize it. So that's the block section. The next is the template section. So you can create a new template from scratch. So if you have your existing email template, you can use that. Or you can use these templates that Engaging Networks has already built and sort of customize them for your purposes. Let's take a look at this one. So this template opens up. Here's the HTML code, but there's also a visual section. And so here you can see, okay, I've got a logo in the top left corner. I've got, this is a block that I've added. I can add more blocks to this template. So let's say a lot of the times we'll have a button at the top. So I've got all my custom blocks here. I can click insert this block. And now this email template will start with a button at the top. If you're creating your email and you're like, I don't need a button there, you can always just eliminate it by clicking the little trash can. And like I said, on the right, all those little replacement things that were in the code, that shows up here. So here I can make choices. I can say, well, what do I want this button to say? Maybe I want to say, sorry, the keys are falling off this keyboard. I want to say donate. I can do padding. I can do the link for this button. So when people click it, what will happen? I've got button text size, button background color. You can change these colors so that they're aligned with your brand colors. And it's nice because maybe now you have to remember all those hex codes and you're like, oh gosh, this is too much for people to have to remember, and you have your cheat code or your cheat list. Now you can just add them to a dropdown, and the value is still the hex code, but what you're actually seeing in this dropdown is the official brand color. That might help you so you're not having to remember hex codes, especially for marketers who are like, when I say hex code, their eyes just glaze over because that's not what they're into. You can change the border color. You can really customize this. And so the idea is to take this email that most often you're going to be sending and create a version of it so that going forward, when you're creating a new broadcast, you can grab that template, customize it, and send your email really quickly. When we look at the code, I do just want to show you that here we have CSS as the style sheet for this email. And if I go down here, you'll see that after all, the CSS is the body of the email. And right about, where is it? Here. It's called container main. So that is where the email content, all these little blocks are going to live. So you'll have sort of the frame of your email will be all this code, and then you'll insert the container using that button and insert it in the email template where you want your content to go, where all those blocks are going to live. And so if you're taking your existing email template and you're copying all that code and you're like, okay, this is the header, we always want that to stay the same. This is the footer, we always want that to stay the same. But this is this center space where our marketers are going to be creating all their emails. That's where you would insert this container, and that's where all your blocks are going to live. So that's the template. And then there's the broadcast. So you would create a broadcast and enter a name here. They'll have you choose a primary ask, which is useful for reporting and other purposes. So I'm going to say this is just engagement, because you can set up an email and a broadcast at the same time here. It's asking me, is this just an email, an SMS broadcast, or an email and an SMS? So if you had this SMS configured, you could say, anybody who didn't open this email, send them an SMS a day later or something. If you haven't used these new tools yet and you're used to the old way of building out emails, traditionally you would start by building out your email. And then once you're ready to send it, you would choose your audience and schedule it to go out. And sometimes you might schedule your email and think, did I remember to suppress those people who they're not supposed to get this email? Or did I remember to do this other thing that I was supposed to do in the audience? The great thing about the new tools is that you can choose your audience at this stage of the game. And then even if you scheduled it, you can go back and check your audience later after you've scheduled it. So that makes it a lot easier. And if you're paranoid like me, it's just nice to have that extra check. So here you could just build your query or select a saved query. I'm just going to select, I think actually a less risky one than that. And then here's where you're going to create your message. So it's super easy. I'm going to click this plus sign, start from template. Here's my email template. And now I would just go through the process of customizing this. So I click on the image block. I've got a new image. I click library. I'd find my picture or upload it and then insert it in here. So we'll choose this one. Then I've got my text block. I'll click on this. I go through the process here in this rich text editor of pasting in my content, adding any personalization that I want. If I want to change some of these settings there, I can do that. I've got my button, so I can change the text here, the link, it's going to our new donation page, whatever it is, and quickly build that out. And then if I'm like, that's it, I've got my image, my text, my donate button. This is a super simple email. I can remove all these additional blocks that I don't need for this particular email. They're just in there so that when I am building an email that I need them, I can use them. Yes.
I've had a lot of issues with email creators like this, where if you copy and paste from something else, it like messes all the code up. Is that the same issue here? Or if you copy and paste from somewhere else, are you going to be okay?
I would recommend, no matter where you're copying and pasting from, to always paste as plain text. And there's like keyboard shortcuts. A lot of the times it grabs the text just fine, but I think it's just better in general to paste in clean text. You need a 5-minute warning, so let's move through this. I'm going to cover some X-rays real quick. So we've got here our subject line. You can customize the subject line with personalization, like in the email classic tools. You've got your preview text, the name of this email, who's it coming from. You can also add tracking parameters here. So if you have tracking parameters in your email already in Engaging Networks, you can choose your tracking parameter, I'd say just email, and that'll automatically append it to all your links for you. So you don't have to remember to include tracking.id. So that's automatically done for you, which is great. You can see there's this manage conditional content area up here. So if this was a conditional content email and I'm sending it to donors, non-donors, monthly donors, this is where I would choose that. So here I've got a lapsed donor profile. I'm going to say, yeah, I want to have a lapsed donor profile on this particular email. And now, let's put stuff in here. When I go to any of these blocks, I have the option on the left to choose what do I want. So here I'm going to say turn on lapsed donor for this block. And I can go back and forth between the lapsed donor version and the version for everybody else. So in the lapsed donor version, I want to have a different email or a different text or something else. So you can go back and forth, toggle back and forth between those and easily create like a custom version for everybody. So the button can be different. The link in the button can be different. You're setting up one email, but just customizing individual blocks instead of creating multiple versions of your email. Click save. I did want to highlight at the top here that we have setup, audience, message, testing, sending, reporting. So those are the tabs they're taking you through here. If I want to add a split test, when you put your mouse back over that message area, here you can add a new split. You can clone this existing one and then just maybe you're testing subject lines. So you can select that message. Now you have your B version of this email. It's really easy to create A/B test versions. And when you want to send a test, you go to the testing section here and you put in the email addresses, send a test. You can choose what version, if you want all the conditional content versions, all the A/B test split versions, and you just add in your test recipients and click send test message. I only have a minute left and I want to make sure you have questions. So I'm just going to pause. Oh, okay, good. Okay, then let's do the last part I wanted to show you is how to get started quickly. So if you want to play around with these, you can go to create template and you can copy the sample that Engage Networks has built. I'll choose, it's called a free and flexible email template. And this is it. So it's already has a logo area, all these little text, all these different blocks they've built. It's basically all their blocks dumped into one email template, and you can customize it, upload your URL, your alt text, the link for your organization, all of that kind of stuff. You can see here that you've got options for what are your headings, what size, what font, what color. For the body text, what color are your links, what size are your text. So it gives you like a great starting point, and they also give you these blocks. So you can use their blocks, but you can also click copy. And let's look at like a button version here. Oh, there it is. So you can duplicate their block, and then you can go through the process of updating it. So here you can see there's a change button background color replacement. If I double click on this, it's just giving me like I just put in the hex code, but I can change this to select, manage options. And on the left, I can put in the value, so like the hex code. On the right, I can put the color, so it can be like white, the hex code, and then white, the word, so that when you're putting this button into your emails, instead of putting in a hex code or looking for it in a color picker, you can choose from a drop down of menu options to be able to build it. So I'm going to stop there, and I think we'll do Q&A. Do I go over here? I guess
Well, that was great. Thanks, Brandon. So we had a few questions come in. So in your initial breakdown, you said to use a table. So the question is, why use a table in your block construction?
Because emails really work best when you're building everything within a table, when you're like confining things to a table. And when you're building these blocks, the kind of complicated thing is that if you don't close the code, then it may bleed into a block that's underneath it. Because in the underlying code, it's just a bunch of HTML sort of built on top of each other, stacked on top of each other. So if you don't close something like colors or text or spans, then they'll bleed into the next block down. And so suddenly you'll have some formatting or something that's sort of confined to that particular block. So I just recommend if you build it in a table and you close that table out, you close all of your code out, then you won't have that issue of like formatting, following one block to the next block to the next block.
How do I manage what my end users can adjust?
That's the great thing about replacements. I'm glad you asked. So if you're having this issue where, your end users, maybe they're just like not technically savvy, and you want to really control exactly what it is they can change and what they're doing at their setup. Look at your email and ask yourself, like, make a list of what are the elements here that need to be locked down versus what are the elements that they can change. So they can change some text or a button or whatever, and only offer them the replacement section on what they can change. Leave everything else in the code. You'll never see the code. They can't touch the code. It's all hidden. So the only thing they're going to be able to see are those settings, those replacements on the right, and they can fill those out and choose things. And so that's how you're kind of confining their options.
Yeah, I like that the most, thinking about hex codes, going back to that. So many times we see, an end user who's just trying to build a marketing email, and they go get like a little dropper Chrome extension, and they hold it over like your logo, and they get like a hex value, but it's kind of wrong. And now you're off by, 1 or 2 numbers on your hex code, and now you're not on brand, and then they get yelled at. And trying to avoid that. Try and make your lives easier. So normally my team just duplicates a prior email. With this new tool, should they still do that, or should they start fresh each time by selecting one of the templates?
Either. It works both ways. You can still duplicate a broadcast. So if they've got a broadcast they send every single time and they're just making small changes, they can totally do that. If you're finding you're doing that over and over again, you could build a template that replicates that design, and that way they can build it from the template.
Yeah, we do that like our maintenance that you get all the time. That is we just duplicate that. It's very, very straightforward. So if you want a test list of multiple people, should you just use them as a seed list in the platform?
Yeah, seed lists are great. And you want to use them for a test seed list because it makes it easier on you than having to remember all the people to add every time. And also when you want to use them for email send seed lists so that they always get every email you send, whether they're in that audience or not.
Yeah, so what we do, for instance, is every single staff member is on the seed list for every single email that we send out, just so that way everybody knows what's going on.
Well, and a hot tip is that if you have people who are on that send seed list, they will get the email twice if they also happen in the audience. So you're sending out an email to like your whole list, and they're on that seed list, and you're going to get that email from them going, oh my gosh, we sent emails, like duplicate emails. People are going to get the email twice. Only the people on the seed list got the email twice because it's just making sure that they got the email.
Right. It's a special version of the email. Yeah. It is their special seed list version. So how do you edit the HTML in the broadcast email? Or are you restricted to editing HTML in the templates?
You're restricted to editing HTML email in the template.
And to be clear, that was a design choice that we did as part of development of marketing tools. Most end users nowadays do not know HTML and CSS. I'm looking throughout this room and I see a lot of you do know HTML and CSS still. That is not true for most of your new hires coming on board. Your junior people that are actually the person who is responsible for building that email. That is not what their skill set is. So they shouldn't have to need that ability to do HTML and CSS. We're also not deprecating Email Classic till at least 2025. So you're good on that if you want to keep using it. So it is there for you. So. All right, from Carrie. Thank you, Carrie, for putting your name on here. When sending tests with conditional content, is there an easy way to identify what segment each test email is from, i.e. what profile it's tied to?
The easiest way is maybe to put a little note in the subject line. That's the only way I could think of, yeah.
From Caroline, is there a use case where you recommend using HTML to design or adjust contents?
Yeah, I mean, I think like if you're going to do something kind of custom for this particular email, it's going to be different than the ones you usually send, then create a template for that one email and play in the HTML, get it just the way you want it, and then build your broadcast off of that one-off template that you created.
Yeah. All right, from Mon, and then we'll do one more here. Have you found a way to edit the rich text editor text via HTML? Have you found a way?
No.
I think that was on purpose, that we didn't make it very easy to do.
No.
All right, and last question here. Are there email elements from an existing Email Classic template that won't work when converted to marketing tools?
Well, the only thing I've run into is that and you probably shouldn't be doing this anyways, but if you have a text in your email and you have like an image, like a line left to the text, sort of old newsletter style, like 1990s newsletter style, then you can't do that. You can't have like a text block that has like an embedded image, a line left. And, like instead you can have a text, like a custom block that has image left aligned, text to the right. And then on mobile, text will go underneath the image, and that's how it should be anyways. And so I would recommend, if that's how you're currently setting up those, just rethink how you're doing your design, and it'd be a little more updated for mobile friendly. But that's the only thing I've run into so far that's been like, oh, okay, this is, a little tough. And I know Engage Networks is always strengthening these tools, and so maybe more is coming, but that's the only thing I run into.
So I think the takeaway is don't design emails for the 1990s, because we're not there anymore.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Sold it.
Brandon Buller.